Hello, good evening, and welcome back. So, what are the proposals for the festive period? Well, put short, if we all behave ourselves and abide by the rules set out by the government, then we might be lucky enough to be gifted a few days with a few people, provided we're all sensible about it. What joy. I don't remember giving the government this much oversight, but just in relation to a video a few days back, it seems the Daily Mail also wishes to be put on that terrorism watch list because, as Ross Clark writes for the Daily Mail here, what they don't tell you about COVID. Fewer beds taken up than last year, deaths a fraction of the grim forecasts, 95% of fatality is underlying causes, and how the facts can be twisted to strike fear in our hearts. Well, he's clearly one there for misinformation, which is clearly going to lead to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to die. So, clearly a terrorist. For more details on that, just look back a couple days back. But for today, civil families could be allowed to meet for up to a week in December in a relaxation of COVID rules, despite scientists warning Boris Johnson it will throw fuel on the fire of the pandemic. So I'm going as far to say, well, yeah, I think this year Christmas Day should just be another date in the calendar. It's nothing special. You got to think, hang on a minute, Christmas Day. Now, sure, it might not still retain the same roots that it used to of paganism or Christianity, being a combination of the two. Seeing as it's so close to the winter solstice, that is not a coincidence. It clearly wasn't Jesus Christ's birthday. The census would not be carried out at the start of winter. But in the UK, particularly because of, I would say, Dickens, that it's become a far more special part. It's a very cosy part of the year. It is, of course, historically the day off that we would have in order to see our family. And a similar thing with Mother's Day, of course, with children then having that day off to be able to see their mothers before education became compulsory. And, of course, then long before education was even an option for children, that we have these few days that are sacred. They are tradition, and tradition is just the answers to problems that we've forgotten. And they are there for a reason, and therefore they are indeed for all of us. But, excuse me, they don't seem to understand this. So, let's crack on. Several families could be permitted to meet up between December 22nd and 28th. Boris Johnson is reportedly preparing to announce a plan for an easing of rules. Matt Hancock said last night it was still too early to confirm Christmas contact. So, families could be allowed to meet for up to a week over Christmas. Health Secretary Matt Hancock told Downing Street it was still too early, but it has been suggested Boris Johnson is preparing to announce a plan for an easing of rules next week. And this is all so slow. When it comes to, oh, there's a lockdown coming, that's going to be immediate straight away. Yep, it's happening now. How long for? Oh, just a short while. 9 months later. Just a little longer. We're nearly there. It's utter horseshit. But hey, vaccines are nearly ready, aren't they? And the first ones of the Pfizer vaccine should be rolling out in a month, mainly going to frontline staff, over 80s, people at higher risk, because the 18 to 50-year-olds are at the lowest risk of having severe cases of COVID-19 or fatality. It doesn't affect them nearly as much, according to the science, the scientists, and the government. It's not such an issue for those aged 18 to 50, and it doesn't really affect children either. So, hang on a minute. You're saying it's not a serious threat to the vast majority of the workforce. Also, the people who need that job in order to support themselves, their loved ones, their family. It's not a big risk to them. So, why are we doing this lockdown again? Are you legitimately saying, and I think the mask is really slipping here, that where it's kind of just a joke before of, oh, it's just because the old people and now we've all got to suffer because we're concerned that one of the octogenarians might pop the clogs. It's like, no, that actually seems to legitimately be what the government is saying here. Early on, bear in mind that they thought, hey, if you're over 80, then you're not going to get seen to because you're too old. We don't give a shit. But concurrently, of course, they're saying, but they are the highest risk, and people under 50, not really so much of a risk. So we don't need to bother with vaccinating them. And I'm not one for this vaccine. I'm all for making it voluntary, and personally, I have no intention of taking this vaccine. It's far too soon to know if there are any severe side effects, and what it's protecting against, it just isn't something to be concerned about for somebody under 50, as I am, believe it or not. So, for the vast majority of us, it ain't going to be a problem. But, getting back to it, it comes as the PM was facing a battle to save Christmas on Thursday after a government advisor insisted that allowing festive gatherings would throw fuel on the fire of the pandemic. Yeah, Hancock said, over Christmas, I know how important it is that we have a system in place, a set of rules that both keeps people safe but allows people to see their loved ones. You don't need rules, actually, Matt. You really don't. You could just say, hey, here are the figures that we know. Here's the vaccines that are available. Yeah. Go do what you want to do. And it is also humorous to me to see that people are, in fact, these scientists, these experts here, are putting so much emphasis on, got to think about Granny, though, because, of course, having the window open, that helps ventilate the air to lessen the build-up of the coronavirus. But they're not going to do that because Granny might get cold, and then, you want to be careful about meeting up with your family because you don't want to give Granny COVID for Christmas. And, yeah, it might be nice being with your family during the festive period, but you don't want to have to bury Granny in January. And a couple of things with that. One is maybe Granny would rather be able to spend Christmas with the family and then pass away a couple of weeks later instead of having to live in isolation. And especially with older people like that, if they're at such high risk, chances are they have some underlying health risks anyway, in which case they're not so likely to see another Christmas. And when you get to old age, then there are also going to be mental difficulties, so what's to say that they even understand why they aren't allowed to see their family? In which case, that kind of heartbreak would cause them to die. Anyway, go, it's Christmas. My family don't want to see me. Right. Well, that's a shame. That's going to be pretty bloody heartbreaking. Good luck getting over that. Bastards. But, yeah. They also focus on Granny because we know to focus on the women, it draws on the heartstrings more than men, but it's also more realistic because Granddad's probably already dead. But simply because men have a shorter life expectancy than women, but that's just glossed over. So, as we say here, Catherine Henderson, president of Royal College of Emergency Medicine, said Christmas should be treated as just another date in the month this year, adding if COVID cases become hospital cases and then sadly go on to become deaths, we will regret a Christmas season that gave Granny COVID for Christmas. Thanks, Kate. I'm guessing you don't have a loving family there. I guess it's a cat Christmas for you. Let's hope they're not mink. Professor Andrew Hayward, a member of the government scientific committee SAGE, said that allowing family gatherings would create a substantial risk of new infections. My personal view is we're putting far too much emphasis on having a near-normal Christmas. We know respiratory infections peak in January, so throwing fuel on the fire over Christmas can only contribute to this. I quite like a fire over Christmas, actually. A nice log fire. The crackling of the wood. Very festive. Professor Gabriel Scally, a public health expert from Bristol University, said there was no point in having a Merry Christmas only to bury friends and relations in January and February. Always the realist. Don't you love their festive wishes? One Tory MP warned it would be better for the Prime Minister to cancel Christmas and be branded the Grinch that stole Christmas, rather than risk a spike in COVID-19 deaths that could paint him as the Grim Reaper. Well, surely just straight off the bat, just say, hey, here's what we know. I would not advise that you do this. If you do, bear in mind, the risks are you're going to die. If that is such a concern, and you're going to be held accountable for it. Because then, if in the new year people don't die, then if you want to be really sleazy, which, let's be honest, most of these politicians do, then they can say, yeah, we gave you what you wanted of a regular Christmas, and we were one step ahead this whole time. and we weren't sure, but we've been able to keep you safe as well through our miraculous intervention, instead of admitting that it was never really a concern in the first place. But, they can't admit mistakes, so now they've just got to big themselves up. Why not do that? Because if it is as bad as they say it is, then give the warning out and say, hey, if Christmas is more important to you, that's your decision to make. No, they can't be doing that. No, not at all. And speaking about mask slipping, churches are also expected to be allowed to hold Christmas Day services, with the Church of England saying the message of light shining in the darkness is needed now more than ever. But maybe not. We'll have to see. It might have to be a socially distanced one. But of course, they mention, that January is normally the NHS crisis. I said, yeah, it is. There's usually an NHS crisis. So why are we so concerned about this one? When, as we've seen, the ICU units, or the ICUs rather, have not been so near overcapacity as we were being told. It's not such a big concern then, is it? But of course, what they're mainly saying is, well, if there are some rules and things that we can abide by so that everybody knows what they're doing and the government is keeping us safe, then yes, we should be able to have some time off. No, government. Get the fuck away. Bear in mind, the government cannot give rights, it can only take them away. It can give privileges, but that's at the expense of rights. But hey, let me know what you guys think down below. If you think, hey, it's all a shambles, let's just call it off now. Or they're just going to say these things, which is their way of giving advice, but they're going to have to try and enshrine it in law. But they just won't enforce it because, hey, nobody wants to knock on the door by police Christmas Day, and the police don't want to be doing this either, except for the few sadists in there. Let me know down below. Always intrigued you guys have to say. And as always, until next time, have a good one.